Welcome back. I'm Tim Erlander with the Republican Roundtable with you again, and it's good to be back with you. And my co-host, Mark Sullivan, is here.
I hope so.
And it's good to see you, Mark.
If I'm not, I got big problems.
And today we're going to do something different. We have an inspirational story, a story that started in the ghettos of Detroit and ended up, lo and behold, in suburban Minneapolis. And this is, I think, going to be a pleasant experience for all of us. Our guest is Troy Middleton, right?
Holliday.
Troy Holliday, okay. I had got somebody confused there. And his wife, Johanna, I got your name right.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's good to see you both, and we're looking forward to hearing your story, Troy.
Yes, very much so.
This is something we need to hear. I might add, I started my legal career in juvenile court. So I saw something of what you had to leave.
Okay.
Now, was that as a juvenile or as a lawyer?
As a lawyer.
As a lawyer, okay.
It was a long story, and I carry a whole bunch of secrets with me to the grave. Mainly because no one would want to believe them anyway.
Yeah, it's okay, but he's a recovering lawyer now, so.
I retired about 10 years ago.
Okay.
It's a little bit easier. Now, Troy, you grew up in Detroit.
Yes, I did. I grew up on the east side of Detroit many years ago.
Okay, now for those of us who don't know the geography of Detroit, what's the east side like?
As far as what do you mean, the east side?
What kind of neighborhood is it? Good,
Well,
bad, indifferent?
Well, back then, it was a little on the rougher side of town, and now, especially after the big automotive industry has pulled out,
After the collapse of the auto industry,
it's been pretty much the worst side as far as things go now.
Yeah, well, a lot of Detroit now is almost a wasteland, isn't it?
Well, as I keep in contact with some of the family members, I was just talking to someone yesterday. They're trying to do some things, pulling out. Especially from out of downtown, out toward going back toward the east side. So, I think they're trying to do some things. But for a while there, it was looking pretty bad, shutting down, especially the east side, shutting down electricity and tearing down buildings and things like that. It wasn't doing so good.
So you definitely didn't come from the upper scale side of town.
Well, definitely not the upper scale
not
side
the
of
upper
town,
scale.
for sure. Most of what I wouldn't say poor either, but the side of town I was on, although it was poor, my father had a decent job. He was definitely, a blue collar worker, working through the automotive industry, actually as a chemist. So he had finished college and he did pretty well for himself, and but nevertheless, we were still living in the east side of Detroit. It took a little while for him to totally get on his feet to where he actually bought a nice place in the suburbs of Detroit, and then we moved out of Detroit. And so.
Okay.
That's what a lot of people do, I understand, in Detroit.
Nice place to be from, right?
It's a nice place to leave, is what I understood. Now, what brought you here to Minneapolis? How did you get to this particular metropolitan?
Or actually, let's just kind of go a little more chronologically. You grew up in Detroit. Where did you go from there? What did you do with your life from there?
Well,
Go to school or what?
Yeah, well, Detroit. I was in Detroit for a while. Moved out to the suburbs. I was in Taylor, Michigan. I went to school there, and I kind of bounced between Taylor, Michigan, and the country. Is called a little town called Smith Creek. It's Wells, Michigan now, and that's where my grandparents had a farm, and so I went to school out there for a year, then came back. My grandfather took real sick, so I was taking care of him with my grandmother, and then we moved back to the suburbs, back out to Taylor. Kind of went back and forth for a little while, but anyway, finished high school. And in Taylor, Michigan, graduated of John F. Kennedy there, and graduated with a 1.9 grade point average. So I don't know about you. It's not a whole lot of college.
It's a little a state college. They take just about anyone, but other than that, when you're talking this kind of C minus,
Right.
it's
C minus on a good day.
you're
but-
not in the real top desirable list
Right,
at that
so,
point.
Yeah, so nevertheless, it was like the academics wasn't something that I really did well at. But after that, I wanted to do business. My uncle had pulled me aside. One of my uncles who had a construction business and had me at 12 years old begin to do concrete work. And so, I just wanted to own my own business somehow. Of course, I was clueless to how that would ever take place. And I was interested in that. But in the meantime, I needed to make ends meet, so I took a job at Denny's restaurant, and everybody's familiar with Denny's.
Okay.
And as a dishwasher, just to be able to kind of be out on my own at 17 after I graduated. And also, at that time, they had a lot of vocational things going on in high school. Auto shop, one of the things was also cosmetology. The funny thing is that I had an interest in hair.
Cosmetology.
Yeah. So a lot of people say is it barbering? No, I actually went into the cosmetology, and one of the things I did, I just enjoyed doing hair. I also I was a 17, 18-year-old boy. I enjoyed meeting girls, and you have a
No, that wouldn't be an incentive to get into it, would it?
you have a captive audience right there.
Good old rampant hormone going.
Yeah. And so, but the funny thing is that in cosmetology school, you just get a lot of old ladies, though. Not a whole lot of young girls coming in there. But anyway, so I did that. I went to vocational school and got my hours put in there. And about 2 years into that, one of my friends who I went to college, who had a little bit better grade point average, I went to go visit him up in school. And as I visited him, I really started thinking about, okay, if I'm doing hair or construction, because I always continue to do construction, somehow I'd like to own my own business with either one of those. Maybe
It's kind of hard to mix the two. It just,
It's very diverse,
well,
I do have a few friends that are hairstylists, so I'm very
well, you
fascinated.
pour
here.
concrete during the day and then in the evening go cut hair.
And don't get the two mixed up all the way.
So anyway, I did that, and after that, I went up to visit him and decided I would go to school. And I told my father I'd like to go to college. And of course, knowing my grade point average, he thought that was funny, and kind of laughed at me about that. And I understood that, but what he said, if you go to school and you do okay, I'll pay your car note. And that was really the only big bill that I had. And a recruiter had told me that they could get me in, even with my grade point average. They could get me in. It was a school that was looking to try to diverse a little bit more up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they would welcome me up there, and I just needed to try to maintain a decent grade point average. So I definitely took them up on it. I was really ready at that point. I've been working for a couple of years. I've seen a lot of people go off to college and, thinking about my life. And, you're getting a little bit more mature. So, I was about 19,
Yeah, you're starting to look a little more, less at the fast dollar and what's in my hand right now, and a little more, okay, where am I going to be 5 years from
Yeah,
now?
we're past school now. A lot of your friends are gone, and life is changing. And so I went to college, and I just absolutely loved it. First semester, I was on the dean's list, 3.5, something like that.
Okay.
And I was ready to go
It's
then.
quite a change from a 1.9.
It was. And then that's what led me to the biggest turn of my life. I met my dear wife up there.
Hey,
27 years ago.
Yeah. And so we enjoyed each other's company, decided that we wanted to make it forever, and so I proposed in college and asked her if would she consider marrying me, and she said yeah. And so right away from there, she had got a interview from Dayton's. At the time, it was called Dayton's. It's Marshall Fields.
And we remember Dayton.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember that.
unfortunately, we also have a governor, but that's okay. we won't get into that one. It's just kind of, we're having too much fun here to ruin it that way. So go ahead.
Let's say I grew up on a farm in northern Wisconsin, and I just thought I would never live in the city because it's the city.
You know,
And
were you
so-
ever ashamed of growing up on a farm? Kind of,
Oh, heavens no.
you know,
I didn't appreciate it till I got older. You know, I mean, now I'm so thankful for it.
I know my mother grew up on a farm. She was always kind of well, I don't want anyone to know I grew up on a farm because they're going to think I'm some hick or whatever. And she was always
Kind of
very
ashamed of
hush
that?
hush about it.
Yeah,
My
I
wife
never
grew
felt
up
that
on
way.
a farm, and I think there's still a few, there's a niece and her husband who are still farming. This is in Saskatchewan province in Canada, so this is a little bit further away, but she ended up meeting me. That's a long story.
Yeah, I think a few more people should grow up on farms so at
That's
least
right.
they know where their food comes from and not yet.
And she had never
Right.
had any problems being having a farm background. She was quite proud of her family, and I liked that.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting hitched. That's a long story. I don't want to get into that. We're here to hear your story. And that's the
Anyway,
most interesting.
back to Dayton's, I think, is where we left off here.
Yeah, so I went to school with a hotel restaurant management degree, and that's when we met. And I still really didn't think I would end up in the city, but that was a part of why we ended up in Minneapolis, is because I had gotten that job. And he came to visit, and it was so much greener, and it was beautiful compared to Detroit. And they were going to transfer me after a year or 6 months or something to Detroit, and Troy just knew that this little farm girl wouldn't have been able to survive in that city. And so I ended up actually going to Rochester, and then we got married in '91, and that's when he came over to the cities, and you can pick up from there.
And Detroit was starting to get really rough about that time, wasn't it? Or-
Well, yeah, that's also a part of my story. You know, as much as I not like to talk about it, there was a time of
but it's significant.
a little waywardness that I got involved in. You know, between between one of my college seasons, I hooked up with some of my friends that weren't so good and started messing around with drugs. And it was, you know, the late 80s, and that was when crack cocaine was just going wild. And so I had gotten involved in selling cocaine to make more money. I wanted to have money for college. I was a businessman all the way around, but I was definitely looking the wrong places at that point in time. And so it was in between one of the years of college that I had some of my friends had gotten caught, and what happened, I ended up selling to an undercover cop, and
Bad choice of clients.
yeah, well, actually for me it was a good choice.
Well, it worked
At
out
that
well.
point, it
yeah.
worked out well because it was the end of stuff that I had no business doing in the beginning. And you know, it was actually a salvation for me because at that time, you know, I could just see that, you know, the way it was, that this wasn't the life that I needed to be living. And
Did you find a lot of pressure with the drugs, you know, when you were involved with the drugs to?
actually, I have to say no. It wasn't a whole lot of pressure in the sense of making me do it.
Or glory or something?
There was
in
more
the
of
sense
that. It
you know,
was more of,
the-
I would like to be able to have the money.
The big guy in the
Yeah,
corner
you
who
see-
always had money
You
for whatever.
seeing some of the guys driving certain cars and money, and you're just saying, wow, and it seems like it comes so easy. And that's kind of like what I saw. I saw these guys going out there and just be out there for a little while and stacks of cash. And
Easy money.
yeah, but it's at a price. It's at a price. And it didn't take me long to figure it out. You know, it was just a short period of time that I messed around with that and quickly seen that I wasn't cut out for that. That wasn't how I was raised. I knew better. And I needed to leave it alone. And so, matter of fact, it was the undercover cop I was selling to. He was one of my last customers. And I told him, I said, you know, I'm going to be leaving. I'm going back to school, you know, after the summer. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to be selling this no more. So you're going to have to find somebody else. And all of that was in my record. That came back to be a good thing because they even said after they arrested me, they said, we thought you were kind of a goody-goody. I was the worst kind of dope dealer you could be, but nevertheless, I was one, you know.
I had some experience representing folks like that when I was practicing law.
Yeah.
How did they treat you in Detroit after you got pinched?
Well, because I was in school, I wasn't in Detroit much longer because what happened was of course at that time they were tightening up the convictions on them, and so what they had for me for what I had got caught with was a small, tiny amount compared to everybody else that I was involved with. They had me doing three counts of cocaine delivery, and each one carried a mandatory 1 to 20 years, minimum of 1, maximum 20. And I had 3 accounts, and so basically the prosecuting attorney and the probation office that I seen pre-trial said that we will be recommending you.
You can do it.
Recommending, I hate to say it, recommending that you get the time. And so she told me that you won't be coming back to see me. I won't be your probation officer anymore, because generally, if whatever our recommendation is that's what you get. And I had which my faith starts to come in. I had a long come to Jesus meeting, and I was, the thing about me is that when I got caught, I totally owned it. I was ready to, I felt bad. I had so many guilty feelings about it, and just looking at what it did to people. And so, I had no desire to fight it or try to get out of it or anything like that. So I just told her, well, if I don't, I don't. I said, I don't know that would be the case. I had just met my wife then. And it was just, I could see the why, like the fork in the road, so to speak. Is this the way you're going to go, or this way? And I definitely, talked to my Heavenly Father and said, well, if this is the fork in the road, I definitely want to take the right way. And if I have a chance, to get out of this, I would like to do that. And I won't look back. And so I remember that I went before the judge, and I said I didn't want a jury trial, wanted to plead guilty. My mom was ready to get me a lawyer. We were going to fight. I was like, I don't need a lawyer.
Kind of like, I did it. I admit it. I was wrong.
Yeah, I'll take my licks.
I meant your mercy, whatever it is, I deserve it. So.
And actually, my spirits was great, because I felt like, I've been caught now, and I felt some relief, to be honest. And so I said, whatever I get coming, I have coming, because, I had no business doing what I was doing, And so how I got treated, to answer your question, is that I went before the judge, and the judge kind of looked at me. He looked at my college. And he seen that semester my grades kind of dropped down. And he said, look like your grades kind of dropped there. I was like, well, see, I was in jail for about a month because I couldn't afford the bond. And so I said, yeah, it's been bad. And he just asked me if there's anything I would like to say for myself, other than pleading guilty. And I said, if I had a chance to redeem myself, I would like it. And under that particular law, there was one stipulation that is up to the judge, that he could give you lifetime probation. And
lifetime probation.
Lifetime, and that didn't mean, in some cases where you do 2 or 3 good years, that meant lifetime for the rest of your life. And so he offered that to me, and I gladly took him up on that one, and he let me go. It was some years later that I ended up back. Oh, I didn't tell you this part. The night that I got pulled over.
Okay.
When I sold to the cop, they never busted me, because if they would have busted me, they would have messed up their whole sting. So they let me go, and I went back to college. And it was on the night of Thanksgiving. I was returning home to go visit my mom for Thanksgiving. I pulled over to get a little nap, and I woke up by a knock on the window, and it was a police officer just checking to see why I was pulled over.
You got a problem.
Right. And I said, no problem. He said, well, if I run your plates and everything's okay, you can go. Well, of course, that was the story. Ran my plates, I couldn't go.
Yeah.
And then I ended up
Is your name Troy Holliday?
Right, exactly. And then the second set of lights pull up, cherry lights pull up, and okay, something's not right, and off I went.
We're in deep trouble now, boys.
New home. And so what I wanted to say about that, it was like 14 years later, and I'm married, and I clean slate, been living great, and working, wife, 2 kids, driving to Detroit. the night before Thanksgiving, I'm going to go visit my mom. And I just rented a car. We just come in from Minnesota.
At this time, we've got 4 kids, and I'm pregnant with the 5th. And he had, in that 14 years, he had gone back to Michigan, gone to Bible college, got a degree, and came back to Minnesota. And so we were going back to an old church. He was speaking that night, and we were driving back to Smith Creek, and he went to put on a seatbelt, swerved a little, got pulled over. So pick it up right there.
Yep, police come over. He said,
Luck of the Irish, yeah.
Mr. Holliday, just want to check, see if you were drinking. And I was like, he said, I can tell that you weren't. But, you know, it's the night for Thanksgiving and people drinking. So he said,
I got pulled over New Year's Eve a year ago because I
right.
Kind of a little bad
bit.
timing on a red light one time, and they were surprised to find me stone cold sober.
Well, that's what happened. He saw I was sober, and he said, hey, I'll just run your plates, and if everything's okay, you can go. And I was waiting and waiting, and this was like deja vu. The second set of cherries pulled up, and I was like, oh my goodness, why am I getting ready to go to jail? And I knew that I was going, but I knew that I hadn't done anything. Well, what had happened is that lifetime probation, when I came to Minnesota dropped it because they didn't have a lifetime probation. And so my probation officer wrote me a little letter and said that you don't have to report anymore, but you are in Detroit, you're still on. And somehow Detroit was looking for me for whatever reason to check up something, said no one in Minnesota knew where I was at, and so they put a warrant out for my arrest. And so the night before Thanksgiving, 14 years later, I found myself back in jail.
Okay, but he said, someday I really just want to go back. I want to go back and not have done anything. And he got his wish. He got to go.
He didn't know how far back he was going to go, did he?
He didn't know.
No, when she's saying go back, it's because what had happened was, in the meantime, she talked about the Bible college. Well, I was doing some ministering and doing some juvenile detention center work for youth, and then also doing some adult counseling and Bible studies. And I remember I'd be in there and I'd talk to these men and just tell them about how they could get their life together and how they could, they could do right, And I said, I know they see me on the outside and they say, oh, that's so easy for you. So I said, I just wish I could be inside, just show them how you can live and even in jail, start living right, especially for God. I said, if I had that opportunity, I said, I don't know how I could get in jail without getting in trouble. And sure enough, I found myself in jail.
Seek and you shall find, right?
Exactly, and I got my wish.
Not the way you planned it. But,
So it's Thanksgiving. It's Wednesday night. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Did they serve any kind of turkey?
He got chocolate cake. He was happy. He didn't care. So in the meantime, I found the paper, faxed it. Went before the same judge, and then you came back.
Got the record straightened out.
You can explain how what you're doing now and what.
Yes, and after all that, where are we now?
Yeah, it was a big turn of events, of course, and a lot of soul searching, and I do owe a lot of it. I'd be ashamed if I didn't say it to my faith in Christ, and of course having a good supportive wife. We growing together, our faith means a lot to us, and so when it came down to, when we're talking about some of the things that we believe in business and things like that, and hard work, these are just really a lot of biblical principles. And so when it came to our time to, where are we going to vote, where are we going to support, we just started looking at the platforms. Now, of course, I grew up in a very, like I said, in Detroit, where a lot of us,
very, very
strong union, strong, democratic area, because, some of the things that just kind of goes along with that. I called into question where I was really at, because, my faith system, I started looking at these things, whether it was the topic of abortion, whether it was how much of government I should allow into my life, how much do I trust that God is going to provide for me, these types of things.
And everyone all your life had told you, okay, if you don't vote GFL, you're not, or whatever, right?
Yeah, I was going to cut in and say, and because of that experience, he worked at a men's halfway house, and they were wanting work for these men who needed work, who had felonies. And so out of that came starting the Holliday Construction, starting the construction business. So when they came out, he could be a felony-friendly employer.
Okay.
And so that was a huge
So you helped
reason.
save some people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where they couldn't get a job anywhere else, you know,
That's
and
a
kept
wonderful
honest,
story.
hardworking.
Yeah, help to get them on their feet. We've had several people that we've been able to be a part
Sounds
of their
like
life.
God and wife really got you through, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
beautiful
And so,
story.
so that in a nutshell, that's kind of where we found ourselves at now. And now I do own a Holliday Construction, and we've owned it for now 11 years. Officially, I've owned it for 11 years. I mainly do concrete and painting. Those are the two main things that I do, and then plowing in the winter time. And I've been able, of course, to employ some of my sons, but you know how kids are, you know, the grass is always greener a little on other places. But of course, no, they've been great workers and helpers to me. And then also, it's been a place, just as my wife has said, that I've been able to be felony friendly, been able to reach out to other people. It's one thing to go into a detention center. I think you would say this too as a lawyer to juveniles, to tell them about how good they could do. But when they get out, now what?
Yeah.
You know, where are you at now? You know,
And
we
now
can talk
you
about
got, what are you
God
going to
and
do
all
with it?
that
And I
too.
mean, all this stuff. Yeah, it doesn't do me any good when I get to go back
Yeah.
to the old neighborhood,
Right.
the old friends, the old
Right.
Right.
drugs, gangs, you know, on and on and on and on. I mean, there's just it's too much incentive there to just continue on where you left off.
Yeah.
Right. You need good hard
it's-
work.
And with,
My
with
job
no one
when I
offering a
was
fresh
interviewing
alternative.
My clients was, you know, I'm not concerned about their welfare. I got the charge in front of me, and it's, do we go to trial or do we plead guilty? Usually the stuff is not worth going to trial. Because we were just dealing with junk. You can imagine what it's like.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much what I did for about a year and a half. And you remember that stuff. And I think we're getting pretty close to the end, folks. Thank you so much. This is a beautiful story. This is what
Yes.
we.
You're
Very
welcome.
much so.
Thanks for having
This
us.
is a story of hope, faith, and love. Actually,
Yeah.
as I said, that's a beautiful. How many children do you have?
We have 8. We have 2 boys and 6 girls.
Oh my gosh!
You're a little short
Are
of a
any of
football
them
team,
married?
are you?
No, our oldest is
The two
20 and
oldest
our
are
youngest
both
is 3.
boys.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
They
goodness.
shovel snow too.
A few more, you
I
could
think
have
we're
your own
just
TV
about
show.
At the end, folks, and I have to call it quits. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
and
having
we'll
us.
see you next time.
Yeah.